When I was 9 years old, my family was so poor we couldn't even put food on the table. Seeing that the whole family was about to starve, my father had no choice but to go to the city for work. I accepted 4 taels of silver from a human trafficker, and sold myself into service. On the day I left home, the snow was falling heavily. My mother cried as she gave me her only dowry, a single fabric flower. In front of my family, I took 2 taels, and secretly gave the remaining 2 taels to my mother. No matter what, she had to keep my younger siblings alive. My father had not yet returned from working in the county seat. My mother stood in the swirling snow with my siblings to see me off. It was so cold, yet my mother didn't even have a padded coat on her back. The donkey cart pulled me further and further away. The snow grew heavier, soon blurring my vision and covering my face. There were 12 girls in total brought along with me, all from my village or the neighboring one. They were all about my age. Though we had been bought by a trafficker, at least we could fill our stomachs every day. Those whose parents could bear to sell them naturally didn't have a very good life at home. The others chattered and talked all day, while I just listened quietly. I didn't know where we were going to be sold next. The road was difficult to travel. The journey took over a month by cart. By the time we reached Bianjing, it was already spring. The trafficker locked us in a small courtyard. On the first day, he took the 5 prettiest girls out. A few days later, he took the rest of us. I was sold to the Xie family in the west of the city. The Xies had a 2-entry courtyard house. I heard the master of the house was a 7th-rank official. I was assigned to the second young lady's courtyard, to be a low-ranking maid. My daily tasks were sweeping the courtyard and doing various chores. The Xie family was simple and small. Besides the madam, there was only one concubine. The concubine was originally the madam's dowry maid. The 3 young masters were all born to the madam. I heard they had all been sent to Shaanxi to study at a very famous academy. They only came home twice a year. All 3 young masters were handsome, but the eldest was the most striking of all. He was like a fallen immortal from the heavens. The eldest young lady was also the madam's daughter. She was 13 this year and seemed quiet, but she had quite a temper. The second young lady was born to the concubine. She was only 7 years old this year. Her skin was fair and delicate, like a little lucky doll. She loved to smile, and being the youngest in the family, everyone pampered her despite her constant appetite. The Xie family did not mistreat their servants. After I had been there for a year, I had filled out quite a bit. The madam gave each of us a monthly allowance of 200 coins. There was even bonus money during festivals. I quietly saved all this money, hoping for a chance to send it back home one day. To me, every day here was a good day. The work here was nothing compared to what I did at home. In my spare time, I learned to knit hats, do needlework, and chat with the other girls. The eldest young lady loved books and poetry. Her head maid was Sister Hua, who was a kind and capable person. She was never stingy with her knowledge. Whenever she had time, she would teach us to read. One day, I heard that one of the girls who came to Bianjing with me had actually been beaten to death by her masters. Only then did I realize how lucky I was. Serving a good family, life felt almost like that of a celestial being. But things changed too quickly. The year I turned 14. I don't know what crime the master committed, but the Xie household was raided and seized. Everyone aged 15 and older, male or female, was imprisoned. The punishment didn't extend to daughters married out. The night before the raid, the madam returned all our indentured servitude contracts, and gave each of us 10 taels of silver. She released the servants, giving us a way to survive. The Xie family's rise had been recent, so the servants were mostly new recruits. Overnight, everyone scattered and vanished. I clutched the money I had saved over the years, planning to return to my village. But looking at the 9-year-old, still innocent and ignorant second young lady, my heart softened in the end. The Xie residence was gone. The second young lady and I had nowhere to live. She could no longer use her original name, Qiangyang. I gave her a new name, Qing, and told her she was my sister. My name is Qingwan, Chen Qingwan. The Xie family was held in the death cells. Even if I spent all the money I had, I might not even get to see them once. I had to keep Qing alive. To live, we had to eat. We needed a place to stay. I was strong, and I wasn't afraid of hard work. I had learned a few characters over the years, and could even do accounts. I rented a small boat, and started a business selling wine on the Bian River. Selling wine naturally requires snacks. In the summer and autumn, I sold drunken shrimp and drunken crab. In the winter, I made warm, stomach-soothing snacks. After the first year, excluding rent, I had already earned 37 taels of silver. The Xie family's case had been a huge scandal, expected to be settled quickly. But a year passed, and there was no further news. I sewed some padded cotton clothes and trousers, prepared some food, and took Qing to see her father, mother, brothers, and the concubine. She happily put on the new red padded jacket I sewed for her. In her padded trousers, she held my hand and swung it joyfully. Lowly, the jailer, wasn't as dismissive as he was last year. I gave him 2 taels. And he nodded, letting Qingshu and me inside. The prison was dim. And the smell was foul. Qingshu was timid. She gripped my hand tight, her eyes darting around like a lost little rabbit. I patted her hand and said, "Your sister is here." She smiled slightly, revealing 2 tiny dimples at the corners of her mouth. The family was actually all locked in the same place. I could hardly recognize the master, madam, and the concubine. They were so thin and haggard they were unrecognizable. Of the 3 young masters, only 2 were there. The one missing was the eldest. I had only seen them a few times before, and their ages were only a year or 2 apart. Trying to recognize them now, I didn't know who was who. I didn't know where the missing one had gone. But at least they still looked somewhat human. The jailer opened the cell and gave us half an hour. Straw was spread in the corner, which must be where they usually slept. Qingshu looked at the parents she had missed so much. But she no longer recognized them, but the family recognized her. Seeing her hide behind me, peeking out cautiously, it took the master a long time before he called out, "Cheongyang." She still remembered that her name was Cheongyang. She looked at her father for a long time, perhaps finally recognizing him, and called out, "Father." 2 trails of tears ran down her fair face, and she hesitantly threw herself into her father's arms. The family looked her over again and again, weeping uncontrollably. They shared the food we brought. There were over a dozen maids in the house before. Everyone had worked hard from dawn till dusk. Who would have the energy to visit them now? The madam was only 40, but her hair had already turned white. She looked like a 60-year-old woman. But she still remembered me. "You are the girl, Qingwan." Her eyes were dull and clouded. Even speaking seemed a struggle. "Mother, she is my older sister." Qingshu replied, holding my hand. I said, "Master, madam, please forgive me." I didn't dare let the second young lady use her real name, fearing that the officials might come looking one day. I had her take my surname. I gave her the name Qingshu. What crime has Qingwan committed? My whole Xia family is cursed with misfortune, leaving her all alone. It all happened so suddenly. I didn't even have time to find a place for my child. If not for you, I don't know if she would even be standing here alive today. I cannot thank you enough. Who would have thought that after a year of disgrace, even my own married daughter has not come? The only one who came to see us was a maid from the house. When the madam gave you back your contract, you were no longer a maid of this house. What's wrong with being Qingshu's older sister? If the Xie family ever sees the light of day again, Qingwan shall be a young lady of my household. I saw the master's and madam's affection. Their noble spirit remained. There might still be a chance for things to turn around. My heart felt happy for Qingshu. I didn't want to be any young lady. I just wanted to go back to my village to see my parents and siblings. Continuing to be a boatwoman on the Bian River was also just fine. "Master, madam, please don't blame the eldest young lady." Qingshu and I went to the Su residence, but we didn't get to see her that day. I heard she had just given birth, and was still in confinement. The Su family was afraid of startling her, so they didn't tell her about the situation. The in-laws madam found me and said it was for the eldest young lady's own good, and that we must never bring Qingshu to their door again. Shortly after, the Su family moved to the eastern capital. Even if the eldest young lady wanted to see you, the distance is vast, and she has a child. How could she possibly come back? There was something else I didn't say. The eldest young lady fainted twice when she heard of the Xia family's trouble, and while she was unconscious, they carried her onto the boat. We are all mortals. At a time like this, what's wrong with looking out for oneself? After a few more words, the time was up. I had to take Qingshu away. She cried and wanted to stay. It took the whole family's coaxing to finally get her out. But she cried, asking why she didn't see her eldest brother. The household had always been full of legends about the eldest young master. Not only was he as elegant as a jade tree, but he had also achieved the triple first in the exams by his capping ceremony. He was the most prized student of Grand Secretary Song, destined to be the next Grand Secretary, and so on. I didn't know much else, but his looks were indeed exceptional. After all, his mother was a rare beauty. Such a person had simply vanished, his fate unknown. Master Xia kept silent about it. I knew then that I couldn't ask any further. I took Qingshu back home. We shared a rented courtyard with others on East Street. Qingshu and I arrived early, occupying 2 rooms in the east wing, one for living, and one used as a kitchen. A family of 4 lived in the 3 rooms to the west. The man was a traveling peddler, and the woman stayed home to mind the children. The peddler was named Hua. He was 6 feet tall, with a silver tongue. Mistress he didn't talk much, but she was a very good person. She was skillful and embroidered handkerchiefs and pouches in her spare time, which Hua would then take to sell. I could sew clothes or make shoes, but embroidery was completely beyond me. In her free time I let Qingshu learn from her. Qingshu had the patience for it, and she learned quite well. Every day, the leftover fish and shrimp from my sales mostly ended up in the bellies of Qing Shu and the two children. This day was no different from any other, except that the Bian River had frozen over, so my business had to stop. For the regular customers who loved my snacks, I would make them at home and deliver them. I returned home and finished dinner. Qing Shu was sleepy. Seeing her asleep, I took out some shoe soles to stitch by the oil lamp. The charcoal in the brazier was smoky. I left a crack in the large window to let some air in before daring to close it. I was 15 now, a grown girl by any standard. In Bianjing, life isn't as easy as one might think. There was harassment from time to time, especially for a girl living with a younger sister. But the river trade had its own rules. I paid my protection fees, so naturally, someone looked out for me. I wasn't afraid of hard work, only of trouble. When the knock at the door came, I was startled. After all, Qing Shu and I only had each other in Bianjing. Who would come looking for us after dark? Who is it? I called out loudly. My surname is Xia. The person outside lowered his voice. It was a clear and pleasant male voice. Without a second thought, I put on my jacket and got out of bed. The man slipped through the door the moment it opened. I quickly closed the door behind him. The man stood by the bed with his back to me, looking at Qing Shu. The room was small, with only a curtain separating the bed area. Inside was the bedroom, and outside served as the sitting room. Now that he had pulled it open, everything was visible at a glance. He was very tall, cloaked in a mysterious black mantle. His hair was tied tightly with a jade band. I had a vague guess as to who he was, but I didn't dare ask. I just waited until he had seen enough. I added wood to the brazier, boiled a pot of hot water, and poured him a cup of tea. It was the tea I usually served to customers on the boat. It wasn't anything fancy, but it wasn't bad either. When he pulled the curtain back and stepped out, the oil lamp was dim, but everyone in the manor used to say he was as elegant as a jade tree. In all my years, I never knew what elegant as a jade tree truly meant, but seeing him today, I finally understood. He looked very much like the madam, though his eyebrows were thicker and longer. He had natural peach blossom eyes. Even without a smile, they seemed romantic and soulful. The bridge of his nose was straight. His lips weren't too thin, and his jawline was well defined, yet he seemed very cold, both freezing and melancholic. A word as superficial as handsome wasn't enough to describe him, and he was remarkably fair-skinned. He didn't even take off his cloak. As he sat down on the chair, he picked up the tea I poured. His hands were also beautifully formed. Truly, a beautiful person has no flaws at all. His pupils were dark. His gaze was as deep as ink, quite intimidating. Looking at his clothes, he didn't seem to be in dire straits. The white robe under his cloak was made of cloud brocade, truly worth its weight in gold. Since he wasn't destitute, why hadn't he saved the rest of the Xie family? The court is full of dark secrets. I didn't dare ask, and naturally, I didn't want to know. I just stood to the side and waited for him to speak. You are calm and patient. You indeed have some courage. No wonder you could keep Qiangyang safe. His voice was low and cold. I didn't dare look at him much. Just kept my head down and said nothing. I leave this to you. Tomorrow, find a way to leave the city, and deliver it to Master Fahui at Jiming Temple. This matter is of great consequence. You must act with extreme caution. If there were any other way, I would not have come to find you. I was originally hesitant, but hearing the helplessness in his voice, the urgency and desperation, I eventually gritted my teeth and took the item wrapped in cloth. It felt like a book, not very thick. When he handed it to me, it still carried the warmth of his body. Young master, please take care. Master and madam are still waiting for you in prison. He rose to leave. I couldn't help myself. For the sake of Qing Shu and the Xie family, I spoke those words. He nodded, and suddenly smiled. It was as dazzling as the morning sun. Aren't you afraid that the Xie family and I are actually the villains? I only know that the Xie family treated me well, and that is enough. If not for the Xie family, I don't know where I would be today. He nodded again, and walked out alone. Jiming Temple was not an ordinary temple. It was only open on the 1st and 15th of every month. Tomorrow was neither the 1st, nor the 15th. Just getting through the door would be a monumental task, let alone trying to see the abbot. Early the next morning, I entrusted Qing Shu to Mistress He, and climbed Jiming Mountain. Though it was called a mountain, it wasn't very steep. I was used to manual labor. A little walking naturally wasn't difficult for me. The main gates were tightly shut. From inside came the sound of chanting and a wooden fish being struck. I knocked on the door several times before a little novice monk appeared. He looked only 5 or 6 years old. At such a cute age, he was plump and fair. Seeing me, he acted very formal, placing one hand vertically and saying, "If the benefactor wishes to offer incense or fulfill a vow, please return on the 1st or 15th. I saw how cute he was, and couldn't help but want to pat his head. but I was afraid of offending him. I took 2 pine nut candies from my pouch and gave them to him. I usually kept those to coax Qingshu. He pursed his lips, hesitating to accept. I pulled his hand open and placed them in his palm. I am not here to offer incense, nor to fulfill a vow. Go and tell your abbot that his long-lost daughter has come to find him. I knew lying was wrong. But what other choice did I have? If I hadn't overheard some gossip on the boat, I never would have thought of such a plan. Before entering the monkhood, Master Fahui was the late emperor's own son. Even the current emperor would have to call him imperial uncle. During the rebellion of Prince Wu, the abbot was ordered by the emperor to suppress it. Prince Wu captured his family members and threatened their lives to force him to retreat. The princess, fearing he would yield, set the palace on fire with all the children inside. By the time he conquered the city and returned home, all that remained were over 100 charred, unrecognizable bodies. It was rumored that a wet nurse had escaped with the young princess, but no one knew where they fled. After searching for years to no avail, the abbot's heart grew cold, and he became a monk on Jiming Mountain. If that princess were still alive, she would be about 15 or 16 now. The little novice was still young, so he naturally didn't know the abbot's past. But he went inside to find someone. Since I had dared to come this far, I didn't feel so afraid anymore. As for the matter of pretending to be a princess, I heard that back then, many families brought their children to the prince's manor to claim kinship. None of them were her, but I never heard of anyone being beheaded for it. The prince was now an abbot. Surely he wouldn't commit any more acts of killing. A moment later, a fat monk came out. He had a very round belly, a large nose, with a red tip, and fleshy cheeks. On someone else, it might look fierce, but on him, it just seemed cute and friendly. He looked me up and down, and asked with a smile, "How can the benefactor be so sure she is my abbot's daughter?" Since I wasn't, naturally I couldn't be sure. If the rumors in the mortal world are true, I seem to fit every detail. As for whether it is true or not, it can only be known after meeting the abbot. After all, whether I am his daughter, only he himself would know. Anyway, no matter what, I just need to see him. Truth and lies are often intertwined. The fat monk tilted his head and looked at the little novice, with his bulging cheeks. He told him to hold out his hand. The little novice was clearly still green. He honestly opened his hand. The fat monk's chubby fingers gave a pinch, and he stuffed the remaining piece of candy into his own mouth. Then, with his belly protruding, he turned back inside. The little novice was dumbfounded. Looking at his expression, I helplessly patted his small shoulder. "What is your name?" "Ming Jing," he said with a dejected face, looking like he was about to cry. "Ming Jing, listen to what sister has to say. Every time your master is fast asleep, go and disturb him at his door. He steals your food, so you should disturb his dreams. If that's not enough, spit on your food a few times before you eat it, and see if he can still stomach it. This time we'll let him off easy. But next time sister comes, I'll definitely bring more candy for you." I squatted in front of him to coax him. Ming Jing had probably never heard such wicked words before. He was momentarily stunned, just staring at me with his round eyes. His master returned quickly, and led me inside. Ming Jing followed beside me, looking like he wanted to say something but hesitated. I gave him a proud smile. He probably thought I was quite something. Abbot Fahui had just finished his lecture, and was resting in the backyard. Though the winter day was cold, the tree there was as lush and green as new. If he weren't bald and wearing a cassock, who would have thought he was a monk? After all, he was far too elegant and handsome. He had been to the battlefield, yet he bore not a hint of a soldier's iron blood. He looked refined and wise. His age difficult to even guess. Everyone else withdrew. He stood under the tree, turning his prayer beads. From a distance, he looked like a painting. This humble girl has sinned. I hope the abbot will forgive me. Lying today was a last resort. I bowed deeply to apologize. Perhaps he was used to disappointment. His expression didn't change at all. I took the bundle off my shoulder and handed it to him. He opened it and took just one look, before closing it again. For such a young lady to have such courage and wit is truly rare. Did Ruchu leave any other words? His voice was clean and pleasant, neither hurried nor slow, bringing a sense of joy to those who heard it. No. Ruchu must be the courtesy name of the Xie family's eldest son. Since he sought me out, he must be in real trouble. If he needs anything in the future, you may come find me at any time. What is the benefactor's name? And what is your livelihood? Qingwan. My name is Qingwan. I am a wine-selling boat girl on the Bian River. A good girl, then. You may go. Since that time, several months passed in a flash. Business on the river grew even better. On the 3rd day of the 3rd month, I heard the princess would be cruising the river. Qingshu insisted on going to see her. Work would stop for a day, so I took Qingshu early to get a look. The princess was the current emperor's own sister. His late father had doted on her, marrying her into the prosperous city of Bianjing, and even granted her Bianjing as her fief. There were many rumors about the princess. It was heard that the prince consort had kept a mistress, so she sent someone to have him drowned. Later, she kept many handsome male favorites for herself, living a life of carefree pleasure every day. As long as she took an interest in someone, none could escape her. So in Bianjing, one rarely heard of families with handsome sons staying around. As soon as they reached school age, they were sent far away to academies to study. The journey was long, and they rarely returned, unless they had a mind to climb the social ladder, and wanted to offer themselves up. The rumors about the princess were numerous, and no one knew which were true. But hearing that even the current emperor had to defer to her, it was clear enough. We arrived early, securing the best spot on the bridge. The princess's procession was naturally grand. There were 3 pleasure boats just for her, each 3 stories high. The princess loved white gauze. Just looking at the boat draped in white gauze, she must be the one inside. It was the middle boat. Qingshu stared at it, chattering away, making quite a noise. On the boat, besides the serving maids, the attendants were all young, handsome men. There were all kinds of them. The stories about the male favorites were not just rumors. As the pleasure boat drew nearer, a gust of wind lifted the white gauze. Qingshu pointed at the boat. I was terrified, and quickly reached out to cover her mouth. By the time I looked back, the fluttering gauze was about to fall. But some people are truly breathtaking. Even if you only see them once, among thousands of people, you can still recognize them at a glance. The princess wore a white gauze gown, her long legs faintly visible, the flower bud painted on her forehead, the red at the corners of her eyes, and her slightly parted red lips, all were clearly visible. And he was right there beneath the princess, his pale chest bared. I could even clearly see his finely drawn brows, and his trembling long eyelashes. The princess was about to touch his lips, but he turned his head away to avoid her. At that very instant, he opened his eyes. Our eyes met. Time seemed very long, yet also very short. Long enough for me to see the shame and fury in his eyes. Too short for me to find that tiny mole by his lip. A distinguished top scholar, forced to submit his body to the princess. This probably hurt him more than death itself. The so-called scholar's pride, better to break than to bend. The person I saw today seemed like a completely different person from that night. He could endure such humiliation, surely because there was something more important than his life to be done. I believed in him. As the days cycled through, I could never forget that look in his eyes. Qingshu was already a big girl now. She had forgotten most of the characters she learned years ago. I thought about sending her to Jiming Temple to let the abbot teach her, but I was afraid those hidden in the shadows would find out. If the eldest son was truly exposed, he would have no way out but death. The princess, however, had established a school, specifically for teaching girls. I sent Qingshu there, along with Mistress He's young daughter. Though Qingshu was simple-minded, her memory was excellent. Whatever she learned that day, she could recite and write down exactly when she returned. I also learned alongside her, and gradually I could read simple books. Only then did I realize that reading 10 miles is true. In books, there are many, many things that I had never thought of or imagined before. In books, there is a hall of gold. And in books, there is beauty are also true. During the Dragon Boat Festival in the 5th month, I took Qingshu to the prison. I brought zongzi I wrapped myself, along with food and wine. Qingshu and I bought fan faces, replaced the fans, and brought mugwort and other festival items. They seemed to be doing a bit better than the last time. The mistress no longer sounded weak when she spoke. I heard that the 2 young masters used the ground as paper, and their eyes as pens, studying diligently every day without ceasing. Even the concubines stopped crying. The Xie family finally had something to hope for. I used the mugwort to smoke out the prison cells thoroughly. I gave the remaining bundle to Qingshu, tied the colored strings for them, and laid out the food. Before coming, I repeatedly told Qingshu that she must not mention seeing her eldest brother that day. If others found out, her eldest brother's life would be in danger. She asked several times if she could tell her father and mother. I shook my head each time, and she understood the gravity of the matter, so she never spoke of it again. It wasn't for fear of the princess knowing his identity. Since the princess could keep him, she had naturally investigated his 3 generations of ancestors. It was even more likely that because she knew his origin, she wanted to humiliate him in this way. I was afraid his father and mother, being unaware, would hear of their son's situation, and be overcome with grief and indignation, wanting to end it all. He humiliated himself so much. To save his family's lives. That was certainly one of the reasons. If he knew his family died because of their grief over him, how would he be able to face himself then? Sister sent me to school, and I can recite many books now. The characters on the fan are also mine. Father, look, is it written well? At this moment, She didn't look at all like she suffered from idiocy. I always felt that Qingxu wasn't ill. She just thought about some things. A bit less than others. With more childish blood. Her father examined the fan face carefully, nodding as he looked. His beard was already very long, his whiskers. His mouth never stopped praising. Our child is finally showing promise. Actually able to write such good characters. It seems your second and third brothers will have to work even harder. I liked the Xie family. Also because of Master Xie's attitude toward his children. Stern with the sons. Gentle with the daughter. But his eyes were always full of deep love. He never favored one over the other. The children he raised would be broad-minded. And not resentful of their father. Did second brother and third brother hear that? If you don't work harder, I'm going to surpass you. Qingxu lifted her chin proudly. This is all thanks to your sister. It wasn't easy for her to raise you. And she even sent you to study. In the future, you must remember your sister's kindness. Her mother tapped her on the forehead. My sister is the best sister in the world. And I am also sister's most thoughtful little sister. Mother, look at the new clothes sister made for you. The inner layers are all fine cotton. Washed and dried. And only when soft to the touch could they be sewn. But now I can also help sister sew. Qingxu turned the bundle over. And pulled out the inner garments. The one who entered service with me back then. Xiang Xiao was now a concubine in a wealthy household. Hearing she was sending things back to her hometown. I followed her example. The clothes I'd sewn for my parents and siblings over the years, along with 30 taels of silver, were sent back. A few days ago, that person returned, with a letter. It was written by someone my father found in the city. Since they got the 2 taels of silver from selling me, my grandparents clamored to divide the family. The 2 taels were split per head. My parents only got 600 copper coins. The house was built by my grandparents. So naturally they wouldn't give it to my parents. My father gritted his teeth and led my mother and siblings into the county seat. My father had some strength. He took my younger brother to a grain shop to work. My mother took my sister to help others with laundry. Though they didn't earn much money, they rented a house in the city. They were doing well now. Now with the 30 taels I sent back, together with what they saved over the years, they could return to the village to buy land and build a house. And even arrange for my brother's marriage. The Xie family was like a second life to me. If the master and mistress hadn't shown mercy and released my contract, who knows whether I'd be alive or dead now. As I should treat my biological parents, I should treat them the same. What does a set of inner garments even matter? When the Xie family fell into trouble, relatives and friends who were once close, all kept their distance. Not a single person stepped forward. Only Qingwan has treated my Xie family with true sincerity. Master, if we can still survive this, let our inner marry her in the future. True feelings are seen in times of hardship. Where else could you find such an affectionate and righteous woman? Mistress Xia stroked the top of my head. At that time, I didn't know which one inner referred to. But I felt I wasn't a match for either. They were both young masters well versed in books. If the Xie family were pardoned, they would naturally pursue their careers in officialdom. They should marry a girl of matching social status as their wife. How could I dare to have such thoughts? Mistress, you must not say that. What Qingwan does today cannot even compare to a fraction of the master and mistress's kindness. If the master and mistress hadn't released the contract, Qingwan wouldn't even know if she were alive or dead today. I do all this out of sincerity. If the young masters of the house can leave through that door, they must enter the path of officialdom. How can they marry a wife who was once a maid? If mistress truly wishes to show thanks, just treat me as you do Qingxu. I was still sitting on my knees. Let us just see what the future holds. Now, I'm afraid the Xie family would only hinder you. Alright, let's not speak of it anymore. Qingxu, pour some wine for father. Later, I long forgot the events of this day, but when they were brought up again one day, it was already a completely different situation. The 5th month was the poison month. People didn't go out at night if there was no business. I closed the door early, and coaxed Qingxu to sleep. I pulled out my chest, and counted the saved silver and copper coins once more. If the Xie family were released, it would be best if Master Xia could return to his original post. What if he couldn't? Where would they live when they came out? What would they eat every day? The 2 young masters couldn't stop studying. What would happen to the eldest son then? I didn't dare to think about it anymore. I certainly couldn't afford to buy a house. I could only rent a larger one. But the silver in my hand wasn't even enough for rent. I should think of some other livelihood to do. With the little income from the boat, who knows how many years it would take to support the family. I held my head in my hands, leaning on the table, and fell asleep. When I startled awake, he was there. I don't know when he arrived. Sitting right opposite me. My arm had fallen numb from the pressure. Moving it felt like ants were biting my heart, both painful and itchy. I grimaced for a long while before it finally subsided. He just watched me quietly, without saying a single word. There was a scent of realgar wine on him. He had probably drunk too much wine, for the corners of his eyes were red, glistening with moisture. No wonder the princess wanted to take him in. He looked for all the world like a spirit that could suck one's soul away. I was 16. An age neither too young nor too old, just right for marriage. I hadn't really seen many men. And the first one I saw was a premium specimen like him. It was natural for my face to flush and my heart to race. In fact, I'd developed quite a thick skin over these years. The customers on the boat sometimes liked to tell crude jokes. I'd gone from being red-faced to finally letting it pass like the wind. But facing him, that thick skin suddenly seemed useless. Eldest young master, what brings you here tonight? I gave an awkward smile. Are there any 5 colored strings left? Tie one for me, he said, seeming half-drunk. I only knew that one shouldn't reason with a drunk person. So naturally I didn't say anything, asking such a thoughtless question on Dragon Boat Festival. I found a string from my needlework basket. Seeing him hold out his pale wrist waiting, I tied it for him. He lifted his arm to look, but his sleeve was too wide, exposing half of his forearm. On that pale, well-muscled arm were shocking wounds. Startled, I covered my mouth with my hand, afraid I would cry out. Seeing my reaction, he laughed with total indifference. What? As he spoke, he actually reached out and yanked his collar open. The white robe fell to his waist. There wasn't a single patch of unscarred skin on his body. My eyes were wide, looking at the various wounds on that pale body, suddenly feeling terrified. Back then, being young, I didn't yet know what it was that shocked and pained me so. Do you know what I do every day? Do you know what a male favorite is? I take medicine every day, kneeling beneath that woman to beg for favor. No matter what she does, I must never make a sound. So what if I was the top scholar? So what if I was a genius? I have long lost my pride. Nothing but a corpse that even I despise. If not for, he was probably truly drunk, which is why he was so troubled by what Qing Shu and I saw that day. If it were anyone else, it might have been fine. But Qing Shu is his own flesh and blood, with such a shameful side seen by Qing Shu. How was he to face her? I rummaged through everything to find some wound medicine, and prepared a basin of warm water. The wounds on his body were from pinching, whiplashes, some even unrecognizable. My heart hammered as I watched. I didn't dare to use much force with my hands, afraid I would hurt him. I could only bite my lip and be as careful as possible. He didn't seem as thin and weak as he looked. His body was like wood or stone. His muscles pulled extremely tight. Slowly, I actually grew quite calm. I told him about going to the prison today. Eldest young master is surely destined for great things. Since you've taken the lives of your family upon yourself, other matters can naturally be left to me. I will definitely take good care of them all. In this world, the easiest thing is nothing but death. A rope, a knife, even biting one's tongue can do it. But it takes more courage to live. Young master, being upright and steadfast, is a form of pride. But even when broken by wind and frost, to endure under such overwhelming pressure, to bend and survive is also a form of pride. Since you've already made your choice, why hurt yourself so? Those who truly love you will never abandon you. Perhaps this is the benefit of reading books. I could also say some appropriate and practical things. He closed his eyes and half leaned in the chair, looking as if he'd fallen asleep. The wounds on his abdomen were heavier than elsewhere. His waist was very thin. For some reason, I suddenly remembered what my mother told me. A man needs a good waist. If it's too thin, he can't even carry a wife, let alone carry on the lineage or support the family. Now it felt a bit funny. Though his waist was thin, he seemed to have quite some strength. After applying the medicine, I said, actually, there's no need. In a few days it'll just be broken again. It's just a waist. He sat up straight. I helped him put his clothes back on. You should protect your own bottom line. No matter what, you should hold your line. How am I to hold it? This current state is already my greatest concession. If I am to beg for mercy like the others, it truly would be better to just die. I was momentarily speechless. Yes, it's so easy to say. But how difficult it must be to do. How exactly did he persuade himself to serve the princess? How did he grit his teeth and endure until now? He would rather endure physical pain to maintain the last shred of his dignity. I'm hungry. Go make something to eat. Won't it be a problem if you return too late? Today is the day he permitted. He told me to go home and have a look. But where is my home now? This is my only place to go. I went to the prison today. And tomorrow I won't be taking the boat out. There wasn't much food at home. But there were 2 dragon fish kept in the water vat. I caught one, cleaned it, and steamed it. He found the small stool Qing Shu usually uses to stoke the fire, and sat by the kitchen door, watching me cook. I heated a remaining bowl of white porridge in the clay pot. It was ready-made. Finally, I quickly scooped out half a plate of drunken shrimp for him, and sliced some cured meat to stir-fry with potato strips. I didn't make much of each dish. And he ate everything cleanly. When I was washing the dishes, he stood by the counter, watching. I wanted to start some other business. When the master and madam are released, if I can't clear their name and wash away the shame, I want to rent a larger courtyard. If the two young masters can study, they should naturally return to their studies. The boat business, though good, earns too little for the hardship involved. At that time, it might be hard even to make ends meet, let alone think of anything else. I shared my thoughts with him. He lowered his eyes, a deep shadow falling across his face. Have you ever thought about it? I have, naturally. I don't know the nature of the work you do, but I suppose it must be tied to the princess. Imperial matters are inherently perilous. Who can say for sure how things will end? I only hope you can extricate yourself safely. That would be the best outcome. Anything more than that, I dare not even imagine. He curled his lips, looking as if he was smiling, yet he wasn't. What kind of business do you want to start? Business was good this year. Aside from the 30 taels I sent back to my parents, and the money spent on prison bribes and daily needs, I have 60 taels left on me, and 57 copper coins. This small amount in the capital isn't even enough to rent the most remote shop. I was wondering what else I could do. I won't take the boat out these few days. I'll look around first, to see if there's any better livelihood. Money is a good thing. Using money to make money isn't hard, but using people to make money isn't something achieved just by risking one's life. Regarding the money, I'll think of a way. Please, don't. If you had money, you would have brought it back long ago. Why would you wait until today? Just protect yourself well. Let me think about it. There's always a way. He looked at me with a half smile. I felt perplexed by his gaze. While I was staring back at him, he actually reached out with a pale finger and poked my forehead, nearly knocking me onto my back. I glared at him crossly while clutching my reddened forehead. He actually burst into laughter. With those red lips and white teeth, he looked breathtakingly beautiful. I sought out Xiang Xiao and borrowed 100 taels from him. That was his entire life savings. I promised to pay him back 130 taels in half a year. While selling fish, I met a boatman uncle. His wife worked as a boatwoman just like me. Their boat specialized in going to the East Sea to collect pearls, and then shipping them to the capital to sell. I heard it was a highly profitable trade. So I begged the uncle, gave him 2 taels, and treated him to a meal with wine. I entrusted Qingshu to Madam He, and clutching over 100 taels, disguised as a young lady going to visit relatives, I followed the boat to the East Sea. There were many other passengers on the boat, who had paid to be transported. Men and women, young and old, mixed in the crowd. I didn't stand out. The journey was arduous. By the time I returned, it was already the beginning of August. The hottest days had passed. My skin had darkened from the sea breeze. Qingshu had grown quite a bit taller. After the round trip, and after paying back Xiang Xiao, I had over 600 taels left. Going out to sea depends on luck. If the heavens don't permit it, boats capsize and lives are lost. This wasn't a long-term plan. I rented a shop on East Street. There were 3 rooms in the backyard, more than enough for Qingshu and me to live in. This street had many tea stalls, breakfast spots, and late-night snack places. Selling wontons here would be appropriate. The shop was originally for selling food, so I only needed to clean the grease off the kitchen tables and the floor. Qingshu had to attend school, so she could only help out after school each day. I cleaned for 7 or 8 days, whitewashed the walls again, and replaced the fabric curtains at the door with bamboo ones. Then at the entrance, and on the windowsills, I placed several pots of blooming chrysanthemums. If these 4 tables could be filled for all 3 meals, I could earn 3 taels a day. A few days before opening, I was still worrying about the shop sign. In the middle of the night, the eldest young master arrived. He and I hadn't seen each other for a full 3 months. He looked the same as before, yet somewhat different. I saw him so rarely. I couldn't say for certain exactly what had changed. You, a young woman, are quite bold. You actually went off to sea in secret. The weather at sea is unpredictable, yet you dared go? If the boat had capsized, your little life would have been gone long ago. Wasn't it just a matter of money? Didn't I say I would find a way? He furrowed his brows, looking extremely angry. I had the wit to see his anger, so I lowered my head and avoided provoking him. Truly, I didn't dare to speak. Look at yourself now. In terms of looks, you barely qualified by being fair-skinned. Now look at you. You're as dark as a piece of charcoal. Who would dare to marry you like this? Why did he have to resort to personal attacks? Young master needn't worry. My father arranged a childhood betrothal for me. Once the Xie family is safe and sound, I'll return to my hometown to settle it with him. I spoke with a straight face, but in my heart, I knew. My family was so poor we couldn't even put food on the table. Where would I get a betrothal? If there truly were one, my grandparents would have married me off as a child bride long ago. I clearly saw his eyebrow twitch. His dark eyes stared at me. I didn't look away either. This was a matter of dignity. Good. Very good. Since you've made your plans, do whatever you want to do. Just make sure you keep your little life safe. He threw down a piece of paper. Without saying another word, he was about to leave again. Panicked, I grabbed his sleeve. Won't you eat? I'll cook a bowl of seafood wontons for you. I guarantee they'll be so fresh, you'll want to swallow your tongue. I coaxed him with a grin. He stood there for a long time, before turning back reluctantly. With such a temper, how did he endure at the princess's manor? Thinking of the wounds all over his body, why should I deliberately anger him? He already suffered enough in his heart. In this place, he should arrive in joy and leave in joy. Don't be angry. Look, the shop is about to open. I definitely won't go running off wildly again. It's just that the shop doesn't have a sign yet. Since this is our family's business, shouldn't you put in a little effort? I brought out brushes and ink, and found another piece of paper. A name? Have you thought of one? He picked up the brush and turned to ask me. Seafood wontons. The people at our shop are all common folk. This way, it's clear at a glance. Everyone will know our wontons are fresh. He smiled slightly, rolled up his sleeves, and dipped the brush. He finished it in one go. Later, I would see him in many different states, but only this time, with his sleeves rolled up and brush in hand, back straight, leaving a quiet silhouette in the dim light. This was when he looked the most handsome. This was what he was truly meant to be like. Full of vibrant, burgeoning life, confident and perfect. I was utterly mesmerized watching him. Will this do? He turned to ask me. It's beautiful. I'm starstruck. The calligraphy is good. The person is even better. Both are incredibly handsome. He pursed his lips and smiled. I only learned later that this year he was only 22 years old. He ate 2 bowls of wontons and took his leave. At the door, I handed that banknote back to him, telling him that wherever he got it from, he should return it there. No matter the relationship. Once money is involved, feelings are no longer so pure. In the end, he took the banknote away. If you were a man, that would really be something. Unfortunately, I am a woman. This is all I can do. Business at the wonton shop got better and better. I couldn't manage alone. So I hired Madame He to help. By the end of the year, counting the silver, I felt a sense of confidence. Day by day, the years passed. When I was 19, the princess returned to the capital. I heard she intended to live in seclusion. Likely she wouldn't be leaving again anytime soon. The princess had left. But she didn't take him with her. Actually, he didn't visit often. Only once a month or every few months. He would come at midnight, only staying long enough for a bowl of food. We hardly spoke more than a few words. But I longed for him. And thought of him. They say beauty is fleeting, and beauty belongs to no one. But everyone is unaware of it. In the 12th lunar month, the emperor made a solemn vow. No one knew what his wish was. But the emperor believed in Taoism. Refining elixirs daily seeking immortality. Everyone in the world knew this. His vow turned out to be quite fortuitous. Granting a general amnesty to the world. The Xie family was among those released just in time. This year, one of them caught a severe cold, and didn't pull through. They passed away just like that. I rented another courtyard. With 6 rooms in total. I had prepared everything long ago. This year was actually going very well. Except for the fact that he wasn't there. Qingshu was now a young woman. She had grown up to be graceful and elegant. A true beauty. Her previous infirmity seemed cured. She spoke and acted with clarity and organization, only being a bit stubborn at times. For instance, when I asked her to move back home to live, she refused no matter what. No one could persuade her. I was an old maid myself. But she had grown up now. She couldn't keep showing her face at the shop with me every day. She was so beautiful. Staying home would nurture her character. And she could learn from her father and mother. About music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. When her eldest brother returns in the future, he will surely find her an excellent marriage. I had no choice but to take her home to the backyard. I simply gave the shop to Madame He's family, letting them live there for free. This way, they looked after the shop, and it saved them money. It was 2 birds with 1 stone. I was now a free person. To put it bluntly, I had no official ties to the Xie family. Living with Qingshu was one thing. But being back in a household, I always felt a bit ill at ease. But the master and madam treated me truly like their own daughter. No different from Qingshu. The 2 young masters treated me with even more respect. Gradually, I adapted. I called them uncle and aunt. And followed Qingshu's lead in calling the 2 masters second brother and third brother. He had been gone for half a year, without a single word. Uncle found a new hobby. He went to the school to teach for half the day, and spent the other half at home teaching the 2 brothers. He was a properly qualified scholar. Qingshu no longer needed to go to school. Every day she followed her mother at home, reading and writing, doing needlework, and helping with housework. She was now accomplished in everything. If I then prepared a generous dowry for her, What kind of husband couldn't she find? High-ranking noble families might be difficult, but a respectable wealthy family certainly wouldn't be. I only asked for one thing. That she marry someone who loves and protects her. To live a life of joy and no worries. One day, I returned home late. The atmosphere at home was tense. It made me nervous. I didn't know what had happened. And the family couldn't give a clear explanation. They only said Uncle went to the private school in the morning. And had locked himself in his room since he returned. He hadn't eaten anything all day. I understood vaguely in my heart. He had found out about the eldest young master. It was bound to happen eventually. It was just a matter of sooner or later. I cooked the wontons I brought back from the shop. Let the others eat first. And took a bowl to find him. A room on the east side had been set aside as a study. He was in there. I called several times before he answered. I pushed the door open. The lamp in the study wasn't lit. And the moonlight through the window only showed his silhouette. I placed the tray on the table. Found a fire starter, and lit the lamp. Though it had only been a day, Uncle seemed to have aged many years. His already graying hair seemed much whiter. His back was hunched. Suddenly, he couldn't straighten his spine anymore. Uncle, have you heard about the eldest young master? I placed the bowl before him. And handed him the chopsticks. His hands trembled so much he couldn't hold them. Is Uncle resentful that he tarnished the family's name? Or are you pained for him? I am the one who harmed him. Old tears streamed down his face. He loved his child more than the family reputation. Uncle, since you feel for him, then never say you've harmed him again. He has already suffered enough in his heart. He kept it from you. Because he feared that one day you would blame or resent him if you knew. Or be overwhelmed by guilt and sorrow. He endured such bitterness through gritted teeth. We should continue as we were before. And as we will in the future. Living our lives well. In truth, between family. How can one ever settle such accounts? Treating him as we always have. Is the only way he won't feel awkward or distressed. I took a handkerchief and wiped his tears. But with such a reputation. How is he to marry and have children in the future? Uncle. He is a very, very good man. There will naturally be an even better woman waiting for him. You needn't worry. Just eat your fill. Keep up your spirits. And wait to hold your grandson. In July, I left the shop to Madame He and Aunt. And took Xianxiu's supply carriage back to my hometown. I left home at 12. And it had been 7 years since. I didn't know if I had changed or if home had. With the money I sent back every year, the family had bought 40 acres of rice fields. And built a large tiled house. My sister had married. And my brother had taken a wife. Even. My 3 idle uncles had all found wives. Life was passable for them. But they felt so foreign to me. And I was a stranger to my family. My brother's wife was a clever person. But a bit too clever for her own good. She was constantly prying about my monthly wages. And how much the dress I wore cost to sew. I didn't have the patience to talk much with her. Only enduring it through gritted teeth. In her words, I was actually just a concubine. My father had lived as a gentleman for 2 years. Yet never once asked if his daughter was doing well. His only words were to remind me. Serve your master well, and if you get any money, remember to send more home. He still needed to save up. To buy a wife for his little grandson. When my sister saw me, she just cried about being poor. My father gave money for his 3 brothers to marry. But wouldn't even spare 10 taels for her. It seemed as if those 10 taels were just stones on the roadside. Found everywhere. Money is a good thing. But then again, not so good. It is too bright. Inadvertently, it illuminates the twists and turns in people's hearts. My mother had died a few years ago. Yet not a single person had told me. In the cabinet were 2 pairs of shoes she had made for me. One pair was red. She said that when I got married, she would also make me a set of red padded jackets. The one person who loved me left so early. No one could say clearly how she passed. Whether they were unwilling or afraid to say no longer mattered. She was gone. What use was knowing the details now? I only stayed for 3 days, left 10 taels of silver, and left without looking back. I no longer had a home, nor any attachments. Only when kneeling before my mother's grave, did I dare to cry. I knew, only my mother would feel for the road I had walked. In early August, I returned to the capital. The chrysanthemums in the capital bloomed brilliantly and magnificently. There was hot food waiting when I opened the door. Someone was waiting for me to come home. Even the bedding smelled of the sun. It seemed my time in this world wasn't in vain. Mother, look. Someone loves me. I am doing very well. If you truly can know this, then rest in peace. In your next life, be a bird or a fish. As long as you wish. Fly as far as you want. Swim as wide as you can. If you must be human again. And if I can marry a good man, then come and be my child. I will surely bring everything you want before you. Cherish you and love you. Making you the happiest child in this world. Autumn passed and winter came. A heavy snow fell in Hunan. I heard countless livestock froze to death. The emperor did nothing to help. Instead, he elevated Taoist priests. Every event has its turning point. On New Year's Eve, the princess revolted. She declared the emperor was a faint-hearted ruler, unfit to be emperor. She wanted to emulate Empress Wu and become the empress of an era.